Theme of the episode, boss who gives you his own means of death. Greetings interwebs and grandchildren, this is Jackit and welcome to another edition of Let's Play Golden Sun: The Lost Age. Last time in our adventures, we struggled and made our way through Yampe Desert Cave, and now it's time to take on the boss. First, a quick tour for my classes. Pretty good setup. Levels aren't that bad considering I took on a Star Magician with them. And pay note to the Djinns I have, 4 Mercury and 3 Venus. That'll become clear soon enough. I am the Guardian of Fire. If you want my power, put yourself in my crucible flame. So here's the thing about this boss. This Let's Play was the first time I never took on this boss first. This guy was always the guy I took on first out of the 4 optional bosses in the game. A, because this dungeon comes first in Nintendo Power when they list the optional dungeons. And past experience in this Let's Play has shown that when you question the order Nintendo Power puts things in, you make yourself look like an idiot. And B, I always consider this guy to be the easiest out of all the optional bosses. I will admit, I did not remember exactly why he was the easiest. I assume because he had nothing special, except for a really large amount of health, and perhaps quite a bit of attack power. But if you haven't guessed from the bio already, oh, you'll see what makes this boss fight so easy if you approach it the right way. So starting up this fight, the only thing I remember at the particular moment was that he was weak to water. Also, I'm using Petra because being able to stop a boss from having a turn is always a good thing. Surprising I don't use him more often. As you can see right about here, I have just enough Djinns for the Azul summon. See, just enough, totally didn't miscalculate it, and assume I needed to use Petra to have enough Djinns for the summon. What are you talking about? The rest of my turn is just going to be spent doing the standard raise my defense resistance up so I can withstand hits. A standard boss strategy. Pretty nice start to the turn, having that gigantic summon doing a massive amount of damage to him right away. And yay, he was unable to move. We're gonna get into a pretty interesting part of the fight right now. As you can see, this guy has the ability to put the Djinns on standby. Why would a boss want to do that? I mean, yes, I guess it kind of lowers your own stats, but at the same time, it kind of puts you at an advantage if you'd like to summon. It makes summoning that much easier for you. As we go through a bunch of menus, I'll take the time to point out that I'm going to be reducing the menu time I spend in boss fights. When I spend a long time on a particular character, or end up changing my mind and going back, I'm going to be starting to cut those out from boss fights. You see, I liked how it worked out before with cutting out repetitive parts of the Star Magician fight. So I'm going to try to cut out more repetitive parts of boss fights in general. But this boss fight was a lot shorter and wasn't as repetitive. So I decided just to cut out parts of the menu that I felt were a bit stale or pointless. Well, I'm a little confused why I'm using the Djinns. I guess because I want to use water summons. But I'll learn soon enough why it might not be that great of an idea to set up my own dungeons or summons. By the way, good sir, do you know it's illegal to stun Jenna in 5 continents of Wagar? And that includes the Djinn summoning too. I believe you've gotten your sentence up so much, just from that first turn alone, that the only viable punishment for you will be death. I am so sorry about this situation, but if you had studied the law books before coming across the awesome Jenna, then maybe this would not have been your fate. Granted, you're the guardian testing the party, not the other way around, but I still hold authority to kill you. Or at least as much as the game will let me kill you. I really don't know what happens to Guardians in Golden Sun after you defeat them, and I really don't care. I wonder how long it'll take me before realizing that building up my own summons might be a bad idea for this fight. I could have sworn that I would have realized it by now. Or the action that the boss does that explains why it's a bad idea would have happened already. Oh well, I've been pretty good about using them up, so maybe that is why. Okay, here we go. You might notice, why did the Jupiter Djinn attack us? The answer is simple, good sir. the gimmick of this whole boss is that he'll put your Djinns on standby and then use your summons against you. So yeah, this could be an annoying fight if you're trying for whatever reason not to use summons. Because my best recommendation for this fight is to use up any Djinns you get on standby before the boss can build them up to a powerful enough summon to be devastating against you. And to avoid making a bad situation worse, I recommend either not using the Djinns at all in this fight and just summoning whatever he puts on standby, or to plan out your Djinn use very carefully. In the sense, for example, if you want to use Petra to stun him, make sure you have a plan to use a summon that uses up that Petra Djinn before the boss can summon it against you. Granted, if you're just in the case of level 1 summons, you have nothing to worry about because level 1 summons are pathetic against you at this point in the game. But if you already have to just on standby and use Petra, for example, you want to make sure you're going to be using the summon up before the boss can. Otherwise it could hurt. And we get a couple of examples of that in here. There's a couple of examples of the boss using more promising summons against us. Solely for demonstrational purposes. Totally me not being a buffoon and using the Djinns or not using summons like I should. Even if this boss gets a couple summons off on you, he's still a joke. Pushover, especially for a hard mode. Especially considering that you can't fight this guy until after you go into the Mars Lighthouse, the last dungeon of the game. You can fight the Star Magician before this guy, and he's still easily the easiest optional boss. What was Camelot and Nintendo thinking? Making it so you can't fight the easiest optional boss of the game before making it to the last dungeon of the game, and yet being able to fight the second hardest optional boss of the game. Fightable, I believe, as soon as Isaac's party joins your party? That's pretty early in comparison. Oh yeah, I could mention that boss has that attack that can possibly stun you, but I still don't see it that special in comparison to his gimmick of being able to use your own summons against you. Maybe I shouldn't call it a gimmick. This is not the first time our Djinns have been affected, and it won't be the last. Things will get much worse than this in future battles. So consider this a warm-up. A warm-up to not getting too attached to the classes you assign your party members in the beginning of a boss fight. I can appreciate this mechanic that the bosses pull from now on of disrupting your Djinns, therefore disrupting your classes. There are some interesting ways they do so later on in the game. And I will admit it does spice up the action a little bit. And it certainly makes the later fights in the game challenging. But on the topic of this guy again, yeah, he's not that difficult. Don't let him use summons by using up your Djinn for summoning. If you have the opportunity to summon Mercury-based summon over any others, be sure to do that. And if you did pick up the Soul Blade like I did, that will also become very useful, because it is the strongest weapon in the game. So you don't have to worry about using up your synergy points or your Djinns. You can just get a decent amount of damage off, considering that you can pull off the special, which is random, so it's not reliable, but it's better than letting him use the summon stuff. While we wait for this guy to do something more interesting than summon Mercury and Jupiter, how have you guys been enjoying the changes I've been making in the way I record and edit these boss fights? As you might note, Golden Sun, including the first game, really feels like it's been my most evolving LP, if that makes sense. I like to keep these consistent, which is why I've been hesitant to do certain changes, but it still seems like that this series has changed the most. throughout its production compared to all other LPs. I really do. It's probably just because it's one of the longest LPs I've done. Pokemon XD is the only thing that I can think of that was longer than either of the Golden Sun games. And if you were to combine both Golden Sun games together, oh boy, it's been a certainly long LP, which I guess explains feelings that have been coming up. It's not that I'm disliking the game or my Let's Play of it, it's just becoming an endurance test. And combined with the fact that it doesn't feel as popular as other games they've done before, which is perfectly understandable, and the fact that I'm just getting into parts of it that I'm less familiar with, yeah, it's being a little bit discouraging, but I'm not gonna give up, especially when I'm this close. I may want to take a break from Golden Sun games for a very long time, but heck, this is the last game that I currently have the means to record anyways. And coming up is a good example of why you should be careful with the Djinns you have on standby. Good sir, Mr. Boss summons whatever her name is and raises his own attack. Yay, the boss who, besides summoning, specializes in physically attacking you, has an attack boost. Fan-frickin-tastic! Good old Sir Jackit, you taught the viewers a very important lesson. Never have a Mars and Jupiter Djinn on standby in this fight. You shouldn't really be summoning with fire anyways. Unless he put them on standby, then yeah, you kinda want to get rid of them so he can't summon, yay. As you can see, I'm using attacking and energy as my primary form of doing damage to him. Just to confirm the fact that you do not want to use the Djinns, he will give you enough the Djinns to work with. Because he's a fool like that. Oh, I just realized. Giant dude with a giant hammer. Does that remind you of any pop culture references? Well, if this is watched somewhere in the far past future, which I kinda doubt, then no, you wouldn't get what the reference could possibly be. Heck, the majority of you might not get it because you might just be more interested in video games than movies or comic books. I don't know, I'm amazed that I know anything about comic books. I don't even read them, I just watch people who review comics that they read. If that's not indirect third person, at the most worst, I don't know what is. I guess it's still knowledge in some particular sense though. And oh boy, Isaac is stunned. I wonder how long it'll take for me to unstun him. I should have taken care of it earlier, but it's like, no, he'll eventually get out of the stun phase. Eventually I won't be wasting a character's turn. But nope, eventually I've been in. I swear that stun runs off eventually, but it certainly seemed like it was going for a really long time. So you see, yeah, use that summon before the guy can use the summon against you. That is the example of how you're supposed to do it. That way he can only use a 1 Djinn level summon twice in a row and do pathetically nothing to you, even less than if he just attacked you with his stun thingy. Okay, am I gonna switch to someone who can unstun Isaac? It looks like I am. Oh boy. Took long enough. That is the reason I brought out the guy who has Restore, right? Yep, right. And now Isaac can get a few final attacks in before this guy goes down. And he's gonna go for... Okay, yeah, this is how it can be tricky. Using the Djinn stun and then going right into summoning what he just got. Then again, that might not have happened if I wasn't all... Guess what, I got the Djinn's only at level 1. It's only level 1, what's the worst he could summon? Why... I don't know, maybe that summon that raises his attack again? And boom, bam, Yes it is! It's that summon that raises the attack again. Thankfully, he's almost down. I've been able to keep my health up very well. A double attack boost is nothing to joke about from a guy who has a giant hammer, but I still have the majority of my party, and he's gotta be getting weak now, so it's not the end of the world. Let's see how I decide to take on this turn. Which, just for the sake of assurance, that's always a good thing. Basic attacking, summoning so he can't summon back, and I don't think it really matters what I do. So just a Mercury Djinn will be plenty. Wow, look at how much damage a single Mercury summon did. 400 damage just from a level 1 Mercury summon. If that doesn't show you how useful it is to use water against this guy, I do not know what will. So I guess that wasn't the last turn like I thought. I don't see why I'm so inclined to... I guess I want to revive because, hey, in the sense of battling, I don't know how long this battle will take. Hard mode makes everything longer than it seems to be. But I get the feeling that Mooch being pretty strong will be enough to take him out. Indeed. And the boss goes down. And we get level ups. Because it's a boss, if I didn't get at least one level up, I would be a bit disappointed. What do we get out of all of that? Why, a new summon, of course. And if I recall, this summon is really cool. Darius. That is totally mispronounced wrong. Apparently it's a fire, but I always consider it a summon of earth. You'll probably see why when we get into the animation of it. But with that, I say the episode has reached its fine end. So I will say goodbye for now, and next time on Let's Play Golden Sun The Lost Age, I think we'll take on the last optional dungeon I want to do in this main playthrough. It is not the last optional dungeon, but it is the last dungeon I want to take care of before finishing off the Mars Lighthouse. So until that time and day, interwebs, see you all later.